Good morning and welcome to the Faculty of Health Sciences virtual celebration event for our final year students, the class of 2021. My name is Professor Ashley Blom and I'm head of the medical school and an orthopaedic surgeon. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all today. Here we are together in this virtual space when of course we were expecting to be welcoming you to the graduation ceremonies in person this month. Whilst we do know that the vets and the vet nurses have had an online graduation in order to be inducted into the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons before they can practice, here we are all together virtually to take this opportunity to celebrate the completion of your time with us. As you will have heard, this is not a virtual graduation event. You will all be invited back to celebrate your awards when we're able to safely hold these events. But we do hope that today gives you a chance to reflect on your time living and studying at the university and in the city of Bristol, and to look forward to your future. Some 10,000 of our students, both undergraduates and postgraduates, are finishing their studies at Bristol in 2021. And today we celebrate our students from the Faculty of Health Sciences who've studied for many years in the dental, medical, veterinary and schools of anatomy, and also the Department of Teaching and Learning for health professionals. A very warm welcome to you all. I would also like to give a warm welcome to our very special guest speakers today. Sir Paul Nurse, Chancellor of the University, Dr. Amber Young, who completed her PhD last year and has just been awarded a very prestigious NIHR Advanced Fellowship, and Dr. Matt Morgan, who's an alumnus of bioethics at the university, an intensive care doctor, a researcher, and well-known author. Finally, we are joined by some of our faculty and staff today and many familiar faces who hopefully are waving to you right now. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping rules so that you know what to expect for the next hour. You will see that for students and staff on the webinar, the chat function is open for you to use. Please do take this opportunity to thank staff and friends and to celebrate and reminisce. But please do use this responsibly and remember that this is a celebration event for everybody here. If you'd like to submit a question for Matt, and I'd encourage you to do so, you can do so via the Q&A box below. This event will be recorded so that we can share it with those who are unable to join us live today. You will see that your pre-submitted messages that you have pre-submitted some messages before the event. These will also be shown again at the end of the event. So if you haven't had a chance to submit a message, you can do so now via the link in the chat. If you want to use social media during the event, please use @Bristol Class of 2021. And we are especially delighted to have our BSL interpreters, Harry and Connor, with us today. Welcome. I would now like to introduce Sir Paul Nurse, Chancellor of the University.
Thank you, Ashley. As you've just heard, my name is Paul Nurse, Chancellor of the University, and it is a real pleasure for me to congratulate all of you graduating this year, the Bristol class of 2021. You would have worked hard to get your degree, so very well done. Be proud of what you have all achieved. Today is a time to celebrate your achievement, to reflect on your time at Bristol, and to share a few words of advice as you embark on the next stage of your life. But today's proceedings are not intended to be a substitute for your in-person graduation ceremony, and we hope to provide that for you as soon as it is safe and is practical to do so. This is also a time to thank those who have helped you get here. Parents, relatives, partners, supporters, friends. They will have supported you in all sorts of ways, and they will be proud of what you have achieved. Thank the university too, your teachers, and everyone else who contribute to the university and who will have helped you during your time as a student. I particularly want to praise you, this class of 2021, for how you have coped with the COVID pandemic. Despite disruption to nearly every aspect of your daily lives, you have continued to work in pursuit of the knowledge and skills needed to obtain your Bristol degree. Your success over this period is a testament to your individual resilience and adaptability. Many of you have shown care, support, and compassion to those around you, supported food banks, developed online education resources, fundraised for good causes, supported vulnerable members of our community and local charities dealing with the impact of the pandemic. This support is not only greatly appreciated by our neighbouring communities, it is greatly appreciated by your university. Throughout your time at Bristol, you have been a credit to the university, the city, and the local community. And you're about to start on a whole new phase of your life. Good luck with everything you will do next and for the rest of your life afterwards. But do not forget the University of Bristol and the good times you have had here. Keep in contact. You will always be welcomed back. Now, as Chancellor, I'm expected to offer some general advice to the new graduates. But in thinking about this, I am always reminded of Oscar Wilde's thoughts about advice. What he said was, the only thing to do with good advice is to pass it on. It is never of any use to oneself. But I will say a few things. The first is to recommend that you keep your curiosity. Curiosity is a feature of youth that can diminish as you get older. Resist this. Remain curious. The world is a wonderful place. It is endlessly interesting. It will enchant you all your life should you remain interested in it. I agree with the historian George Trevelyan, who said about curiosity, disinterested intellectual curiosity is the real lifeblood of real civilization. The second thing to tell you is be an enthusiast. Embrace causes, pursue your interests, care about the world and the people around you. When necessary, be passionate about these things. Do not let the grass grow under your feet. Get on with things, as Horace said in the 1st century BC, carpe diem. While we are talking, time is fleeing. Seize the day. My third piece of advice, keep a sense of humour. There is a danger, whilst being intensely curious, passionate and enthusiastic, that you may start to take yourself a bit too seriously. Do not forget to laugh, especially at yourself. Indeed, one of the best anecdotes to the downs in life, and you will have downs, is humour. A day without laughter is a day wasted. So these are my 3 pieces of advice for you. But do not forget what the great British scientist Max Perut said about advice after a similar speech to this. One final word, never follow the advice of your elders. Good luck to you all and to you all in your futures. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Paul, for that lovely address. We as staff are mindful that we can't fully understand what it has felt like for students to be finishing your studies in the present circumstances. These have just been extraordinary years. So we're really pleased to have one of your peers who will give some reflections on behalf of you all. Your university career will have been about hard work and academic achievement, but it is also about friendship and relationships that you've made along the way. I would now like to hand over to Dr. Amber Young to give some reflections on behalf of all of you. Amber has been a personal friend of mine for 2 decades. I can honestly say she's probably one of the most inspirational doctors I've ever worked with. Her level of dedication and care to her patients is unequaled. She's a consultant pediatric anaesthetist at the Children's Hospital, and she's a senior research fellow at the university. She completed her PhD last year, and she's now been awarded an NIHR Advanced Fellowship. Amber.
Thank you, Ashley, and good morning. A quote from Harper Lee in To Kill a Mockingbird. Courage is when you know you are licked before you begin, but you begin anyway and see it through no matter what. I hope this story demonstrates the courage of the class of 2021. I've been a consultant caring for children with burns since 1999. I've been chair of national committees regarding standards of care for burn patients. In 2012, I was clinical lead in an application led by Professor Peter Matheson to a burn charity. We were successful in being awarded a 5-year children's burns research programme. I have wanted to do a PhD since then. In 2015, I approached Professor Jane Blaisby. We had both been in the same Bristol Medical School year, and asked for help in applying to do a PhD to improve burn care evidence. I had been struggling throughout my consultant career in explaining to parents that evidence was lacking for clinical decisions, what dressing, when to do surgery. Families were amazed. I was interested in understanding how outcomes are chosen to show the effects of treatments to provide evidence. She said, you want to develop a core outcome set. I'm afraid I did not know what that was. I soon learned that it is a set of the most important outcomes agreed scientifically with patients and clinicians. The idea is, if all trials report the same outcomes, you can compare like with like and improve data collation across trials and the evidence base. I spent the next 6 months writing my application to the NIHR. It almost wrote itself, as I knew now what I wanted to do and why it was needed. I achieved an interview in summer 2016. I was asked why I wanted to do a PhD late in life. Why didn't I just publish papers? I was fairly robust. I said I wanted time to think and learn and research how to increase evidence to support clinical decision making. However, I came out with a smile, walked to the station and got a glass of wine. It was 5 p.m. I rang Jane to say that I thought it had gone okay and I was having a glass of wine to celebrate. At this time, she said. I found out that I had got the funding a few weeks later at work. I remember exactly where I was when I read the email. I couldn't stop smiling for days. On October the 1st, 2016, I started my PhD at the University of Bristol. I was happy, excited about doing high quality research and absolutely determined to make a difference to patients. 2 weeks later, on our 4th wedding anniversary, I found out that I had metastatic breast cancer. I had been diagnosed with primary breast cancer in 2007, but had been happy and active since then. I got married age 49 and did 2 half marathons, 1 2 weeks before our wedding. I had forgotten the cancer. My symptoms were right-sided abdominal pain, which I and my GP thought were gallstones. An ultrasound scan showed that the cancer had spread to my liver. I also had bone metastases. My prognosis was 1 to 2 years of life. I was to start chemotherapy. I rang Jane. She said, I will support you whatever you choose to do. I said, without any hesitation, I want to finish the PhD. I spent the next 3.5 years doing my PhD, supported by my husband, who had given up his job. I talked to many patients. Their stories were individual and compelling. One young woman who had survived a massive burn asked for the interview transcript because she said it had helped her hugely being able to talk about it to someone with no judgment, who was simply interested. I also undertook an international survey of patients and clinicians in burn care, and I achieved participation of more than 700 from 77 countries and 6 continents. I achieved the core outcome set in November 2019. I completed my PhD in April 2020, 6 months early, despite chemotherapy, along with my computer, sickness, radiotherapy, and endless appointments, endless scans, and endless terror awaiting results. The PhD helped me as much as I hope it will help clinicians and patients. It gave me a distraction at the simplest end, but more than that, it gave me a reason to continue. It gave me a want, a need to leave a legacy. What now? I've recently achieved a 5-year NIHR Advanced Fellowship that will allow me to undertake a priority setting exercise in burn care so that research is focused where it is needed. I've told my oncologist that he needs to keep me alive for another 5 years. I'm open with the NIHR, my funder, about my health, and they have supported me so well. As Sir Paul said, I have many people to thank: the NIHR, Jane Blaisby, Matt Hickman, John Iredale, David Wynick, my colleagues, my amazing hero oncologist Jeremy Braybrook, and my wonderful husband Norman. Doing a PhD is not the same as looking after a child with burns, but that accepted, it is the most wonderful thing I have done in my professional career. I am not a breast cancer patient. I am a successful clinician and now a clinical academic about to start a postdoctoral position. Bristol has been my home since 1981. I gained my medical degree here, and I love the city and the university. I suspect that my story is also the story of many other Bristol students. COVID, deaths, illness, isolation, mental health problems. All those celebrating today will have had issues, and like myself, will have achieved against adversity and with determination. The university motto is Vim Promovet Incitam. Learning promotes one's innate power. The class of 2021 should be so proud of our learning and our innate power to overcome. We should congratulate each other. I will congratulate you. We were not licked. We had courage and we did achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber. You're a wonderful person and truly an inspiration to us all. Your time as students at the University of Bristol has been a rich and varied one. The staff that have taught you, the professional services staff that have supported you, and the wider city will all have shaped part of your experiences with us. There are many more people than are in this event today that would like to wish you all very well and congratulate you on your wonderful achievements.
Well, congratulations to the class of 2021. This has been a really difficult year for us all, but hopefully it's the year that you'll be able to celebrate because of your achievements. You've shown tremendous grit and determination, and we're really proud of you.
The highlight of my course would be the people on my course. Everyone was really welcoming and friendly.
The friends I've made on this course that I would never have met otherwise has, just been the best experience.
A lot of the people I met in first year are still really good friends today.
The best thing about living in this city is it's potentially the best student city in the UK. There's so many things to do, from food to bars to pubs to clubbing, and at the same time you get top quality education.
Some of my favourite places in Bristol are all the parks, like the Downs, Ashton Court. I really love them, they're really vibrant spaces.
Castle Park is such a nice and pretty place.
Cabot Tower.
St Nick's Market.
Harbourside, because it's really nice to go down there and relax after a long day of studying in Wills Memorial.
When I talk to people about Bristol, they talk to me about a city that's buzzing, that's vibrant, that's alive and exciting. And I think that is in no small part because we're a university city. It's because of what you've all brought to the city of Bristol. You're part of it, you're part of our city story, and I thank you for that.
Congratulations, class 2021.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And we hope to see you soon.
All the best for the future. You've been brilliant.
Huge congratulations to getting to the end of what has been a crazy year.
Congratulations to everyone, and if you're sticking around Bristol, looking forward to see you come down here.
Congratulations, guys. Graduated. Very good. We are hiring.
I know that many of you have supported our city over the last 18 months as volunteers, and I just want to say thank you all very much for all of the work that you have done.
I've discovered the world of volunteering here. There's so much opportunity to volunteer in Bristol, it's unbelievable.
You'll always be part of this city, so for those of you that are leaving us, don't forget us and please come back soon.
Huge congrats, class of 2021. I'm super proud of all of you. I can't wait to see all the amazing things we'll go out and do and go out and be great.
My message for the class of 2021 is congratulations guys, it's been a hard year. I'm looking forward to seeing you out and about and going back to normality.
Congrats guys, it's been such a tough year, but we've done it.
Whatever you do, just stay relentless.
So, although the last year has been incredibly difficult, there is good news, and that is you are going into a world in flux, into a world that's changing, and I think you therefore have the potential to have more impact and make more of a difference than perhaps any of the other graduating classes did before you.
The world needs your talents, the world needs your qualification, and Bristol has given you the best possible start in that regard. So go out there and make the most of it.
Congratulations!
Congratulations,
Class of 2021.
So congratulations again, and well done. You've earned your success, and we're very proud of you.
Well done guys, top job at Bristol Uni. Congratulations.
It is now time for us to hear from a very special speaker. We're very lucky to have one of our own alumni join us today, Dr. Matt Morgan. Dr. Matt Morgan is an intensive care doctor, researcher and author, with his first book, Critical, which was published in 2019 by Simon & Schuster, having been translated into 4 languages and featuring in the Times. He was nominated for the 2021 Royal Society David Attenborough Prize for Public Engagement in Science. He has appeared on several television programs, including Sky News, CNN, ITV, BBC, and even The Jeremy Vine Show. He's spoken on popular podcasts and radio shows, including the Today programme and many international talk shows. He's had his articles featured in The Guardian, The Times, The Telegraph, Esquire magazine, The Daily Mail, Sunday Mirror, and The Huffington Post. Notably, his open letter addressed to patients during the 2020 COVID pandemic has been read by over 500,000 people worldwide and viewed over 3 million times after featuring on Channel 4. Dr. Matt Morgan graduated from the University of Bristol in 2002 with a BSc in bioethics. Matt, we're honoured to have you with us today, and I'd like to hand over to you to address our health sciences students.
The class of 2021. What is the meaning of life? Is a terrible question. While studying ethics on St Michael's Hill, I would look for answers. Yet now working in the intensive care unit, caring for people at the brink of life, I think I have found a better question. How can you bring meaning into your life? Over the years, I've met many people who have died, had CPR, and then ultimately lived. I've collected their words, their thoughts, and their answers to this question. And I call these whispers for life, because if you listen hard enough, we all hear them from time to time, but it's only losing life and touching death that allows you to turn the volume up to 11 so that we can truly listen. Let me now tell you about what the dead can teach us about living. Meet our first patient, the judge. Standing 6 foot tall with a neatly trimmed beard and a deep considered voice, the judge has been trying every case in the criminal calendar for over 20 years. When we first met, he was no longer this larger-than-life character. He had died. In fact, he had died over 20 times that day. A cardiac arrest in the middle of his courtroom. The clerk doing CPR shouting the judge's first name for the first time. In the ICU, his organs were shutting down, but slowly, eventually, after many tough conversations with his wife and daughter, life returned. The judge told me months later it was only when travelling from the hospital to the rehabilitation unit that he felt free and felt alive. Looking out of the window of the ambulance, he saw flashes of colour, the Welsh spring, the flowers, the people, the places. Until then, he'd been concentrating on his destination, walking again, getting home. but actually it was the journey in between where life crept back in. And so our first whisper is that life happens in the in-between places between here and there, in the cracks. Remember to look out of the window. I break a lot of bad news, and people ask me how I cope. Why aren't I always sad? Well, in a way, I'm lucky. I have a free reminder every day to appreciate the good in life, and I care less about that flat tire or that tax bill. But the judge's wife remembered nothing about that first news conversation. She remembered instead how it made her feel. Yes, sad and worried, but also reassured that someone was there, someone was listening. So whisper number 2, it's not the words you say or even how you say them, often it's how you leave people feeling. Another feeling the judge's wife took from our conversation was hope. Not because I had made promises I couldn't keep, but because when she asked would her husband survive, I said 3 small words. If the 3 most important words in life are I love you, the 3 most important words in medicine are I don't know. But saying I don't know is hard. People expect doctors and others to have solid answers. Yet these words carry immense power, including hope. They can also inspire people to strive for a better understanding of what's not yet known. So whisper number 3 is to admit I don't know. And that hope was well placed. The judge is still alive today. He's not just a husband and a dad, but recently a granddad. And he's back in that same courtroom, very alive. Our second patient, the dancer, was very different. A teenager, life at their feet, energetic, a crackle in every step. Their first trip away from home was to see a gig. It carried risks, not from alcohol or drugs, but from a severe nut allergy they had. The gig went well, the music was loud, the hotel was safe, until breakfast. What looked like cornflakes were actually crunchy nut cornflakes. Soon our dancer was having CPR in a hotel far from home. You may think, why weren't they more careful? Well, I often meet people in ICU after the biggest mistake of their life. But we all make poor choices at some points. Mine, mostly in the Lizard Lounge. Yet, we get away with it, through luck rather than judgment. Our fourth whisper, people are so much more than their worst mistake. Our dancer, though, was getting worse despite treatment. Our drug infusions were going up and up, but the dancer's life was going down and down. People suggested novel treatments, different machines. Everyone started thinking outside of the box. But I was thinking inside the box. Inside those tiny nut-containing cereal boxes scattered all over hotel breakfast tables. Their contents now inside the dancer's stomach, making them sicker. So rather than fancy machines or drugs, we thought inside the box and sucked out the contents of the dancer's stomach, removing the nuts. Whisper number 5, think inside the box before outside. It worked. Our dancer slowly tiptoed back to life. But visiting them weeks later, they were crying, inconsolable. With every tear they dropped, I wondered why. Pain? Fear? It was actually neither, but because they didn't know what had happened. They couldn't remember anything, why they had died, why they had lived. And all they wanted was our 6th whisper, for someone to help them make sense of their story. Our last person spent a lot of time in hospital but aren't ill. They haven't had CPR, but they did briefly lose the life that they were in. And that person was me, and the reason why, a tiny RNA virus that turned all of our lives upside down. How did it feel working in an ICU during a deadly global viral pandemic? Well, a bit like being a first-time parent, living in a one-bedroom flat when your baby comes a month early and that baby is one of triplets. You start parenthood knackered before the baby even arrives. You haven't painted the nursery, your bags are not packed. You worry about how to care for more children than you can carry. How are you going to get through this unscathed? Yet you do get through it. Adrenaline, love and teamwork are your fuel, and coffee. The early days are hard, the later days harder, but your children survive, you cry, but you also laugh out loud. Did you come through unscathed? No, but most of the scars will heal and remind you of what you have achieved. Life will never be the same again. Some parts worse, many parts maybe eventually better. And I got through it, not by trying harder with grit, but actually with more quit. I stopped doing the things I didn't love or didn't really want to be doing. We are taught that quitting is failure. But leaders are there to help others rise, to fill a new gap. What if you were that gap? Nobel Prize winners, the ultimate gritters, have a broader range of superficial interests than others. They dip in and out rather than staying committed to the end. They quit more. Our seventh whisper: only keep doing the things you love, the things you're good at, or the things that make you feel more like you. Sonic the Hedgehog was my first computer game I actually managed to complete. Defeating Dr. Robotnik, a brief sense of achievement, was then followed by a chasm of loss. What now? As I was only 12 years old, my sense of purpose was quickly replaced by riding my bike and Street Fighter 2. I've now fallen back in love with life and work because I expect it to be like a computer game. If Sonic had been the same on every level with no hard bits, no levels that made you shout or swear or think about giving up, with no big boss that felt impossible to beat, it would have been a terrible game. I would have taken the cartridge back to the shop. And so now I expect a complaint will come, an exam will be failed, I will have some terrible days. But that's okay, it's the game design. Our eighth whisper: treat life like a computer game, expect tough levels, the big boss, but remember that is what makes it worth playing. And so, the class of 2021, it's been a tough, strange, hard year, but now you have the power to choose your future. Many are in a rush to return to normal, but let's be in a hurry to remember which parts of normal are really worth returning to. And I returned to my Bristol application form. Whilst writing this, I read, after running out of inspirational quotes and half-truths, I answered the last question that said, what are your future plans? And I simply wrote, work hard, ask questions, be kind. As you step out from behind Bristol University's beautiful polished stone buildings into the wind of life, I hope these 9 whispers will help you smile at great times, get through tough times, and remember the friends you have made. The 9 whispers. Look out the window, life happens in the cracks. It's not what you say, but how you leave others feeling that matters. There is power in saying, I don't know. People are not just their worst mistake. Think inside the box before outside. Help make sense of people's stories. Do more of the things that make you feel like you. Life is a computer game. Work hard, ask questions, be kind. Thank you.
Now, the more eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that Matt magically changed his clothes and his background. And the reason for that is he pre-recorded his message because he's supposed to be taking a break in Scotland, and he has joined us from there today. Matt, we're going to have some questions for you, if that's all right.
Perfect.
So the first question is from Emily Black in dentistry, and she said, what's the biggest challenge you've ever had to overcome, and how do you deal with balancing career success with family life?
Wow, tough questions. I think, first of all, in terms of the biggest challenge, I'm kind of lucky, as I said in that speech. I meet families in intensive care every day at the worst point in their life. It may be that they've had some bad news about a family member or themselves. And so for me, the challenges we get every day in life pale into insignificance when we see that. It's almost a stoical flashback I get every day. Saying that, of course, the last 18 months, like everybody, was, a really tough time in intensive care. Not just for us, but for patients and their families. So it was probably the last 18 months where families couldn't be there when people needed them to be, which was definitely the toughest time for me. And in terms of balancing family life and work, I think they're not a binary difference. My life is on a continuum. I love caring for patients. I love science. I love my children. I love my 2 girls, my dog and my wife. And for me, I think if you do the things you love, the things you're good at, and the things that make you feel more like you, actually, I go for a continuum rather than that binary choice.
Thanks, Matt. You published your book Critical in 2019. So what inspired you to write it, and what was your process?
The truth is, like all good stories, it started in Ireland with a pint of Guinness. And I was in a local bar after a medical conference where somebody said to me, "What do you do? Why are you here in Dublin?" And I said, I'm a doctor, I work in intensive care. And the person said, "What's that? What's intensive care?" Now, this was before the pandemic, and now, of course, people can tell me more things about ventilators than I know myself. But the passion really was realizing I'd spent a decade writing academic papers that not many people read, speaking at conferences where people know more about the topic than me, and I'd forgotten about that one person at the centre, the public, the dad, the mum, the sister, the brother. And so I wanted Critical to tell people about the beauty, the science, and the passion of intensive care where I work. I wanted to talk to the public.
Thanks, Matt. Which brings us on to another question. You've made some career choices and the nature of your job, being a published author and writing a lot of provocative and thought-provoking opinion pieces in leading journals and the print media. This invites a lot of criticism and scrutiny. How do you deal with this, and what advice would you give to anyone thinking of going into a career in the public eye?
You're right. What I often do is I write things which are hard to say. And I don't know whether that writing words on a piece of paper or on a laptop just takes you one step further back so you can be braver. That's certainly how it makes me feel. I think, yes, it does draw criticism, but actually greyness in life is what people often don't want to strive for. I would much rather 50% of people hate my book or hate what I've written, and 50% of people love what I've written or love the book, than just be muted in the middle. Perhaps that's why I've chosen intensive care. It's full of extremes of highs and lows in a short period. Criticism is hard, but I think you've got to realise that even those who criticise, they have spent time to do that. You have stirred something within them, within society, to think about the issues. And as I said in the talk, I don't have the answers. I often say, I don't know, which will spur conversation. And that's got to be a good thing.
Thanks, Matt. You mentioned that some people don't know what intensive care is. There are also some common misconceptions about it. So one of our questions is, can you give us an example of a common misconception that people have about intensive care medicine or medicine in general? And what can we do to combat these misconceptions?
Well, the truth is, we don't have any magic treatments or machines in intensive care. In fact, there's only 3 things in intensive care that work, perhaps 4, and that is antibiotics, surgery, skilled nurses, and time. I'd say 4 things. That's all we have. We don't have a machine or something like Cocoon, the film, that we can anti-age people. But for me, time is the critical thing that we give. We use machines to allow us to work out what's wrong with people and work out what we can fix. And sometimes we can't fix things. And what time does then is allow us to support the family, support the patient, and make sense of their story. So I think that's the biggest misconception, that we have some magic machine that can fix problems which don't have a fix. In terms of what we can do about that, the truth is often honesty. Through the public engagement roles I'm trying to do, through the book and through other things, I don't shirk around hard topics like CPR, like advanced care planning and others. we need to be honest with the public and with ourselves and with the professions about those hard topics. Because if there's one thing for sure, talking about difficult topics is much harder at 3 o'clock in the morning when it's your loved one there on the bed rather than in the pages of a magazine or a newspaper or a conference. That's the time to talk about hard topics.
Thanks, Matt. There's a question here about what networks or support networks you're part of that have helped you to get where you are today. And are there any networks or resources or support mechanisms that you would recommend to the class of 2021?
Well, I love the quote at the beginning of this presentation that said, "It's not goodbye, it's see you later." And I was in Bristol on St Michael's Hill with Professor Huxtable, who I saw earlier on this call, and he was in touch with me earlier today. And it really is see you later, not goodbye. I've caught up with mentors like him and colleagues who I was there with in Bristol over the years for things I could never imagine, actually. So I think the first support network are your mentors, your professors, your teachers, your friends, your colleagues, your family. Of course, there are some professional bodies out there. The Academy of Medical Sciences has been great to me. I was in their mentorship scheme, and that was really valuable. There's some fantastic writing support resources out there for people who want to think about medical writing. I've developed some myself, but there's also things like BMJ Opinion and other articles. But I think the final support network, actually, which is a bit different to think about, are actually patients and their families. All of the people in the book I wrote critical are real people. Often the names in there are their real names. And that's because I went back to visit them, sometimes months, years, even decades after they were in intensive care, sometimes decades after they've died in intensive care. And having that kind of extreme follow-up, for me, has been life-changing. And no matter what you're in, working with people, whether it's dentistry, veterinary sciences, medicine, teaching, healthcare sciences, following up the people you're involved with over months and years has been hugely rewarding for me.
Thanks, Matt. So our next question is, how has healthcare or the healthcare industry changed in the past 5 years, or what are the biggest changes? And what would you predict will happen in the next 5 to 10 years?
Wow. Well, predictions will always be wrong, so take whatever I say and ignore it. I guess the last 5 years we have tried to move to personalised medicine. I think the truth is in some sectors we have been able to, perhaps in cancer therapy, where we can now develop drugs targeting individual genetic mutations. Perhaps in something I'm involved with, CAR T therapy, where we make patients' own T cells fight their hematological cancer. That's been absolutely remarkable. But I think the truth is, in most of medicine, we haven't moved to truly personalised care. So I think that's what has been tried over the last 5 years. I hope over the next 5 years, we'll see the reality of that. It's been a bit like the genetic revolution with the Human Genome Project. It promised a lot, but it actually took a lot longer to get there. And I suspect that will be the same with truly personalised medicine.
So, Matt, you've shared some really great vignettes with us from your personal career earlier. But I've been asked to ask you, what career moment are you most proud of, or what is the most memorable?
Well, if I'm completely honest, there's been a lot, but for me, and I'm not just saying this because I'm speaking to the class of Bristol, but coming to Bristol for me was a huge deal. I struggled in comprehensive school in Wales with writing, with the humanities, if you like. Science was always my passion, yet I left Cardiff Medical School for a year, came somewhere that I'd never visited really before, with a new group of friends to Bristol to do medical law and ethics. And I was in law classes with people who were passionate about law. I was in philosophy classes with people who could spell words like Kant and Bethlehem much better than me. And that was really uncomfortable for me. It wasn't my strength. And yet often doing those hard things are the most important in life. And I can honestly say the things I learnt and the experiences I went through in Bristol, I apply every day in medicine. Every day in intensive care is a conundrum of ethics and humanity all rolled into a complex knot which we try to untangle. So I would say it was my year in Bristol, and that's why it's such a pleasure to speak to you all today.
Thanks, Matt. And then one last question. So take into account that Sir Paul has advised us to ignore whatever your answer to this question. The question is, if you're only able to get across one piece of advice to the younger generation, what would it be?
I think it would have to be that 10th whisper, the thing that I wrote in a passing comment on an application form, and it was 3 simple bits of advice. It was work hard, ask questions, be kind.
Thank you very much, Matt. We're delighted that you could join us today. We hope your stay in Scotland is fruitful, and good luck with finishing off your second book.
Thank you all.
On behalf of all of us at the university, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to be with us and to mark the end of your time as students here at Bristol. We're now coming to the end of the celebration event. Shortly we'll be finishing with 2 performances from our a cappella society, Bristol Suspensions, followed by our Bristol University Symphonia Orchestra. Following this, your messages will continue to be displayed and the chat will remain open until 11:15 a.m. when the event will close. After the performance, there will also be a short poll for you to complete, along with some important links in respect to the Careers Service and the Alumni Association. It just remains for me to say thank you for joining us today. We sincerely hope it'll not be long until we can welcome you back in person to the university for your in-person graduation ceremonies. Thank you very much to all of our guest speakers. I know I was profoundly touched by your messages today. And on behalf of everyone at the university, including all the faculty and staff, it has been such a pleasure to have been on this journey with you, our fantastic students. The university has helped to give you the skills and knowledge you need to make a real impact in your chosen field. We are sure that you will go out and do great things and make us extremely proud of you all. From all of us at the University of Bristol, it's not goodbye, it's see you later.
I won't talk about the weather, not with you and not together. Even when the sky is grey, I'm feeling blue. And though the winds are always changing, the clouds are rearranging, part of me will always be in love with you. There's a fire in a lane since you moved there back in May. I wonder, should I go to see if you're right? Yeah, you're a million miles away, and still I think of you each day and hope the weather doesn't keep you cold at night. So I won't talk about the weather, I won't talk about the weather, I won't talk about the weather, not with you, not together. But even when the sky is grey, I'm feeling blue. And though the winds are always changing and the clouds are rearranging, a part of me will always be in love with you. just wish that we could talk like you and me. I won't talk about the weather, not with you and not together. And I wonder if we're ever really through. 'Cause if we're talking about weather, you and I shouldn't be together. Oh, I know I'll always be in love with you. No, yes, I know I'll always be in love with you.
is annoying.